Hey, good evening, everybody. Well, I missed church this morning, but I did listen to Minister Rob Strong's sermon this morning on YouTube. I listened to it this evening. And he was talking about racism, and unfortunately, that's something that goes on throughout the world, in our city, in our country, and sadly in some churches. And when I think about the ugliness of racism, it always reminds me of a particular family that my sister and I and my parents lived next door to in Duarte. I was about 7.5, my sister was about 8.5, and the family next door, they were black, we're white, and it was a family of, I believe, 7 kids and 2 adults. And, I had grown up quite a bit in foster care, and even though my foster parents were the same ethnic background as me, not always are foster kids the same race or ethnic background. So I guess I learned at a young age that race really doesn't matter. And so out of about 7 of those kids that we lived next door to in Duarte, we probably played with about the younger 4 or 5 because they were the closest to our ages. And my mom didn't really seem to matter, and it didn't matter to their mom that we played together. But neither one of the dads were too crazy about it, although I think my dad was more accepting than their dad. Until one day, the older boy was watching 2 of the younger boys while the parents went to work. And the other kids went with both of their parents to separate jobs. And unfortunately, the 5-year-old was downstairs with his 16-year-old brother and doing who knows what. We didn't have video games back in those days, so who knows what they were doing. Maybe they were reading. But the 3-year-old was upstairs. And for whatever reason, they had what they believed to be an empty kerosene can in the cabinet underneath the bathroom sink. And the 3-year-old got a hold of some matches or a lighter or who knows what, but he ended up literally blowing up the house. And it was a horrible thing. My sister and I were in our house, and we could really see the walls expand and the roof lifted up. And the 16-year-old grabbed the 5-year-old and ran out of the house. And I'm going to assume the ceiling caved in from upstairs, because the 5-year-old did get burned some. And I remember my mom running and taking him into our house and putting him in the bathtub. Well, the 3-year-old was still upstairs and nobody could get to him. And finally, when the fire department got there, and they were able to get the fire out enough to get to the child, he was severely burned everywhere. And unfortunately, by the time they got him to the hospital, he did die, from what I hear, 2 hours later. And unfortunately, the 16-year-old got disowned from his own family. But that did seem to break the racial barrier between the 2 dads. And I was thinking, how sad it is that it takes something so devastating for two families to come together when we're all the same. You know, we just got different skin color, you know. Now, whether or not the father continued to try to break his racial barrier of not liking white people, I don't know, because they did end up having to move away. There was nothing left of their house. But, and it's funny that God keeps that family in my mind all these years later. And I still wonder, I often think about them, I pray for them, even though I don't remember their names. But I wonder, you know, what God did with their lives later. And, you know, I really think about the 16-year-old who had to live with, you know, knowing that, you know, his little brother died under his care. It wasn't nothing that he intentionally meant to happen, you know. The 5-year-old did recover. I mean, he had some pretty severe burns, but nothing like the younger brother. And I thought it was really sad that not only he lost his brother, but as a result, he ended up, at least for that time, I don't know if he was ever reconciled with his family or not, but he lost his entire family because of the temperament of his father. And so, you know, it's really sad that I see a lot of times even now, a disaster strikes and we all forget about each other's color of skin. But when everything somewhat settles down and goes back to whatever normal is, we're back to our old ways of, well, I don't like this person because of their skin color or for whatever reason, even though they haven't really personally done anything to us or said anything to us. So, you know, I hope that people listen to this and they really think about it and realize we're all just God's people. And race shouldn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. So, God bless you. I hope this inspires you to reach out to somebody who doesn't necessarily look like you. Have a good night.